We had a spectacular evening last night. Yeah, it was fabulous. And I'm kind of surprised to see those of you here in the room. And hi to all of you who decided to stay home. And everybody else who's online with us. Reverend Karen was truly moved and blessed, and just had an amazing experience. And it was so lovely to celebrate in community together. And so as we talk about being light, we just want to really thank the group of people that made last night possible. So that was Christine Volkmer, Deb and Randy Craig, Jackie Leiberg, Kia Tillman, Lisa Blackford, Lydia Perry, Ronnie Issa, and Septima Thorns. And yes. And apparently I gave way too much credit to Randy for the plane. That was actually all Deb. And Randy with a little help. So thank you, Deb, for the amazing plane. If you haven't seen the plane and you don't know what we're talking about, go over into Pankey Hall after the ceremony, after the celebration. And there's still a little room on the banner where you can give your best wishes to Reverend Karen. We'll be taking it down today. So this is the last day to add your best wishes to it. Now, we do know that there were folks that weren't able to be here last night. And so JL's name's not on this party team. Oh my gosh. Marsha. Oh, goodness. So thank you to Marsha and JL. Anything having to do with food, you know Marsha's going to be a part of it, and it's going to be fabulous. I was a little tired this morning. So please forgive me. And JL was not able to be here last night because she was not well, but I know many people were not able to be here. So we do want to share with you the beautiful video honoring Reverend Karen that was put together. So we're going to turn it over to the AV folks and let them share that video with everybody. fabulous, fabulous opportunity to celebrate love, but also to celebrate light. And so today we're talking about being light. So many of our holiday traditions at this point in time all celebrate that light. And when we are being love, as Karen talked about last week, and as we got to celebrate her last night, that love is what shines out as the truth of our being. Now, I've spent a lot of time thinking about this idea of being light, and it's such a ubiquitous conversation, not just in the holidays, but also from a spiritual point of view. How many ways in spirituality we use the term light and enlightenment and to be illumined and all of these different things. And you know I'm weird. I contemplate weird things for long periods of time. So I remember one particular Christmas Eve being, and of course I've been doing midnight mass since I was a kid, and then, Christmas Eve here forever and ever. And I remember one Christmas Eve, after the Christmas Eve celebration, really going home and being caught on the passing of the flame that we do here on a Christmas Eve. And so you don't want to miss that. We have lots and lots of special rituals this Christmas Eve in addition to the passing of the flame. And I don't know why it had never occurred to me, but when you pass the flame through all the candles in a community, do you know that the original flame is never diminished? Like, how does that work? If you have a glass of water, and I give you 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 water, right? The glass of water eventually is empty. And if I have food, and I give you 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 food, the food is eventually empty. And if I have a bucket of seeds, and I'm going to plant them in the ground, and I plant them, and I plant them, and I plant them, and I plant them, eventually the seeds run out. How does that work? And you know what I thought about was that the flame is never diminished, and that flame will burn as long as there's fuel. As long as there's fuel. Now, that's not just true for a candle. If you think about a light bulb, the same thing is true. By some weird magic of electricity and the movement of electrons, a little filament in a light bulb, and before we got to LEDs, got red hot and created light. And it was only because that filament burned out. It's not like the light disappeared. It's not like the light turned off. So I thought about telling you a story today, and I couldn't find one that spoke about how I imagine this. And so I started writing a story, and it became really long. Started out, once upon a time, there was a woman in search of enlightenment. And so in this search of enlightenment, she received the gift of flame. And she decided to take it home, and all the way home, she kept being asked to share the flame. And I was going to tell you all the ways in which somebody asked her to share the flame. And I thought, we'll never get anything done if I do this story. But then I realized that this is the story of our spiritual awakening. Every time as we become more light and we are awakened a little bit more, there are those around us in need of that awakening, in need of our light. And sometimes we don't want to give it. Okay, I'll speak for myself. Sometimes I don't want to do it, and I don't want to be conscious, and I want the other person, could they just figure it out for themselves, or whatever it is, right? I was telling this story earlier in the Science of Mind class. My son and I were having a conversation the other day, and he said, why do I always have to be the reasonable one? And I said, that's because you're becoming a grown-up. Part of spiritual maturing, right, is that we're the ones who get to be the conscious people in the room. And sometimes that is so annoying. as other people are not being conscious and they're having their temper tantrums or they're behaving poorly. And we're asked to be the love and we're asked to be the light. And yet, what I know from my own life is that as I have been asked to bring the flame, to bring the light to the situations, it does in fact make a difference. And more importantly, I don't know, maybe not more importantly, maybe as importantly, I like who I am when I'm being conscious. I have to make a whole lot less amends. I have to clean up a whole lot less messes. And I actually feel like I'm bringing light to a situation, right? And it's only my belief that I'm going to run out of fuel that causes my own light to dim. And yet, if we know that we're the individualized expressions of the one infinite reality, of course, the fuel is the very light that's passing through us, as us, into the world. It's only my belief that there isn't enough fuel, that I'm not able to be the light. And we're going to talk about that because we mix and associate our energy with our light, which are actually two different things. So, be the light. That's be light. That's our topic today. Last week was be love. Today is to be light. And to think about all the ways in which we use this term regularly and spiritually, not only in terms of enlightenment, go to the light, see the light, but we also talk about it as being in the light. We talk about people who are radiant with light. They glow. We talk about people who are brilliant like a light with their vision or their intellect. We say, lighten up, get a little bit more light, right? Don't be so serious, don't be so heavy. We invite ourselves and others to see the light. There's so many ways that we are constantly talking about this idea of light. And in a lot of our art, in our shamanism, with the saints, right? People who see auras, all of that is the recognition that there is light forever emanating. It's not only emanating and moving through all of life, right? They have now actually recognized that the human body, as all bodies, but we're always so enamored by ourselves, right? The human body, does in fact have its own bioluminescence. Maybe not like a bioluminescent jellyfish or a worm or that phosphorescence that you see in the sea, but you can identifiably measure and take photographs of the bioluminescence of our biology, of our physicality. And all of that bioluminescence comes from one place. Anybody? The sun. It comes from the sun, because that bioluminescence is, in fact, photons of light. Right now, while we're sitting here and while you're sitting there, wherever you're sitting, and probably even over the Ethernet of the internet, we're exchanging photons of light. Scientifically measurably exchanging photons of light. Why? Because we are eating sunlight every day. We're eating sunlight because when we eat animals and plants, we're eating the sunlight that the plants have converted into sugar and energy. All of our nutrition eventually makes its way to the root, which is a plant that is converting sunlight into sugar. So we are always eating light. Now, I'm going to share a few things from this fabulous book that I was reminded about. In The Luminous Life by Jacob Lieberman. The Luminous Life, How the Science of Light Unlocks the Art of Living. Thank you, Sherry Wood, for reminding me of this fabulous book. And Ryan reminded me that we actually had him here as a speaker, probably 10 years ago. Highly, highly recommend it. The Luminous Life. So we want to begin. I'm going to read a few things from this book to you because they are mind mind-boggling. So first of all, this guy spent 30 years being an optometrist. That's his background, being an optometrist and working with people's vision. And out of that and his own personal development and spiritual growth, he began to see how vision and light work together. So, and how cleverly I don't have my glasses. This could be a problem. So he quotes Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein wrote to a friend, "For the rest of my life, I will reflect on what light is." He confessed that he spent 50 years of consciousness broadening, trying to understand the nature of light, and was no closer to understanding it than he had been when he started. More recently, quantum physics has described light as the foundation of reality. This is profoundly significant when we realize that quantum theory is considered the most successful scientific foundation in history, and that to the present of our current technology, 50% of our current technology is based upon it. According to the physicist David Bohm, light is energy and is also information, content, form, and structure. It is the potential of everything. Sound familiar? Right? It's just wild. So here you go. Light is made up of photons, and it is believed the ultimate particle, that every subatomic particle is composed of photons, which are the fundamental building blocks of what we call matter or reality. Now, photons, little photons of light, packets of energy, packets of information, are formless, invisible, and without attributes. Like, I can't even bend my mind around that. Photons of light are formless, invisible, and without attributes. They have no mass, no weight, no electrical charge, and thus cannot be directly perceived or measured. And yet research has shown that we ourselves can see out of the corner of our eye an individual photon of light and will respond to it, not knowing that that's what we're responding to. No mass, no weight, no electrical charge, formless, invisible, and without attributes. So David Bohm has gone on to say this fabulous thing after his study of light. He says, all matter is frozen light. Not unlike Albert Einstein's E equals mc squared, which he also quotes as another way of perceiving that all matter is frozen light. What is just as important, however, is how life or matter can once again become light. So, if all matter is frozen light, what if the way in which we see light, the way in which we see matter, the way in which we see our lives, the way in which we engage in our lives returns matter back to light? We don't look at light because we can't actually see it. Unless you see smoke within a beam of light, right? We can't actually see light. What we see is what light shows us. This is Lieberman's primary thesis. We don't see light itself. What we see is what light shows us. Where things catch our eye. Where the light is guiding us to look because of what is illuminated, because of what that photon of light that that catches our eye. And in many ways, he equates this to that sixth sense that causes you to to turn, to notice, to hear, to sense, because light is so hard to see, and because what is happening is the possibility that light itself is wanting to catch our attention. He has some really interesting things to say then about the intelligence of life, inviting us to become present, to be present to what is going on, to be present to the experience of reality that is happening. So he goes on to say this. Despite popular belief, attaining presence is not about thinking or trying to be here now. Rather, it is a naturally occurring state that arises when our eyes and mind, triggered by light, focus on the same place at the same time. Our eyes and our mind. In response to light's invitation and guidance, our eyes begin an intricate dance of aiming, focusing, tracking, and teaming. When light first awakens us, our eyes are toward its emanations, focusing on what's there. Though we often relate presence to attention, it has no tension associated with it. It is not a forced, voluntary presence of selecting one aspect of our environment to focus on while ignoring others. Presence is an involuntary response to the invitation by life's intelligence, pointing us towards our most amazing potential. Light is life's invitation, guiding us to be present. It's not a forced thing. Our degree of presence is directly related to how effortlessly and accurately our eyes are able to aim. When the eyes aim effectively, making eye contact with and thus acknowledging what has called to them, we experience congruence. This is a sense of coming together, the perfect alignment of our outer and inner worlds, where extraneous noise is diminished. When our eyes and mind are focused on the same thing. I discovered this during my career as an optometrist and vision scientist. When patients came to me with vision problems, I focused, I can't even read it. I think that's hysterical. I think that's so funny. I found that most of the time their eyes would look at one spot, but their mind would be elsewhere. I hear a lot of recognition in the room. This incongruity between what their eyes and their mind were seeing interfered with their natural ability to experience presence. Presence is an involuntary response to an invitation by life's intelligence pointing us toward our maximum potential. It's actually not something we have to work on. It's not a sense of concentration and focus. It is a congruence, an alignment that where we are being called to look is actually the right place for us to be looking. And that there is, in fact, something there for us to see. When we are focused at the same place at the same time, we see things that we overlook. And sometimes we do that on purpose. And when we do that on purpose, consciously or unconsciously, he talks about that being our resistance to life. Actually, he calls it the fact that we're allergic to life. And so because we don't want to see, we sort of kind of look at it, but we're thinking about something while we're looking. Or something catches our eye, and we immediately start thinking about something else, rather than asking ourselves, what is seeking our attention? What is seeking us to be present to it? I think this is the fuel of our light. Presence and our willingness to look and have our eye and our mind pay attention, notice, simply notice the same thing at the same time in that place of congruence. I think that's the fuel. Because what happens when we do that, when we're congruent? Well, first of all, we see the problems. We don't go Pollyannish, I'm not going to look at it, I'm not going to look at it. We see them. And we see the patterns of thinking they reveal. Yes? Do you see the difference? Not just the problem and who's going to fix it and somebody ought to do something somewhere and blah, 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 and complain, but by being able to see the problem or the challenge, if you prefer that term, and bringing your mind just to allow those things to be congruent, right? Patterns begin to reveal themselves. Patterns of unconscious bias, patterns of unconscious thinking, patterns of unconscious speaking and behaving. When we're willing to see, to simply look without concentrated attention, these things are revealed to us. And that is the fuel of our spiritual growth. In the same way, opportunities are revealed to us. That open door, or that open window when the door closed, or that strange possibility that caught our eye, that sentence on a billboard, or that snatch of something that we saw driving by that reminds us, of an opportunity. Do you see, when the mind and the eyes are aligned, there is a congruence that allows us to see what is there for us. And so when we see the problem or the opportunity, we have the opportunity to take a breath and to bring our inner light to bear, to shine on it, or not. Or we shut down, we close off, we decide not to see. All of this is, I think, the curriculum for our growing. And it is the fuel that allows our light to not only shine more brightly, but it is the thing that allows us to share our light as we become aware, as we have new ideas about the challenges, as we see opportunities. And of course, we don't live in a vacuum. It's not just my life. It's how all of our lives are intertwined and related. And we see these things in a new way. This congruence recognizes that our life becomes our meditation. I love what he says here. We need not prioritize anything because the intelligence of life has already done that for us. And everything in life has equal value. The way you wash your dishes is no different from the way you wash your infant's back. So if a bill comes in the mail, pay it. When the phone rings, answer it. When you are inspired, create. When you feel love, express it. When a problem lands in your lap, welcome it and then deal with it. Embrace life, and it will guide you toward optimal health and well-being. Not only yours, but also the health and well-being of those around you. Your life, as Gandhi once said, is your message, and your message is contagious. Responding to what catches your eye not only sets you free, it sets everyone free. We often speak about living in the moment or wanting to be spiritual, but being spiritual is not about being anything but rather taking care of what is in front of you. Recognizing that your life is your meditation. With clarity, we become ordinary, simply taking care of whatever comes before us. Following this process, we develop a knowing that whatever shows up, we will in fact meet. Do you see? There's something so profound about this idea that light isn't just this enlightenment that only certain people can achieve because they've sat in a mountaintop or because they've become well-versed in some spiritual tradition or because they meditate every day. Our lives are the places where we live out that which we believe to be true. And our lives, our very lives, the very ordinary places of our lives is where the revelation happens. Am I seeing the divine, or am I only seeing limitation? Am I seeing possibility, or am I only seeing what's holding life back? And am I behaving and being in that? The idea that our life is a meditation reminds us that it's in the ordinary moments and the choices that we make, the way that we see them and the way that we respond to them, that makes all the difference. This is what it means to be the change that we want to see in the world. It's not looking out there and saying, oh, that should change, that should change, that should change, that should change. It's when we see our own work, our own life as a meditation, that then when we see the thing that catches our eye and calls to us in the world, do you see? Then that too is ours to do. Not all the things that we react to or get triggered by, but the thing that catches our eye, that calls to us, that I give my gift to, that I give my life to. And I think it is these things, these ordinary things, that are the fuel of our light. They are the curriculum for our awakening. It's an opportunity to practice living from the spiritual truth and with that spiritual vision. It is an opportunity to be present, to pay attention to whatever is in front of us, and not feel as though we are constantly trying to manifest something in the future. Although we do that as well. We have the end result, but then we have to walk the path. We walk the path to the end result by paying attention to what is being called for. We're present to it, and then the light that is being called from us. So this paying attention is the same quality of paying attention that we learn in the practice of meditation, right? It's the witness quality of meditation, of noticing and paying attention, not the analytical, which often falls into the critical way of paying attention. Do you see the difference? This is, right, it's simply allowing it to be illuminated and to see what is being called for. This is never-ending fuel for our spiritual awakening, and it's never-ending fuel for our light. I think that's why they call it insight. When we have the insight, we can see into the spiritual truth. And this is the fuel for us to be light in a situation, to be the light that's being called for in a situation, to see into the heart of it. And you've heard me talk about the double vision, spiritual double vision. One eye on the human condition, and the other always focused on that spiritual truth, that spiritual reality, which is in the heart of whatever's going on. Amanda Gorman says this: there is always light, if only we're brave enough to see it. If only we're brave enough to be it. Yeah. And it certainly does call for bravery to answer the call of the thing that is causing us to pay attention, which can be the irritant, the thing that we've been putting off, the thing we've not wanted to do, the thing we've been procrastinating about. Do you see, when we simply do what catches our eye, what our eye falls on, the light is guiding us, just when we take care of it, all of that vanishes. All of the ways in which we sabotage ourselves, keep us from our greatness, keep us from following our bliss, keep us from giving our contribution. All of those vanish if we will simply allow the light to guide us to that which needs to be done in the moment. Do you see? And then we don't have to fret or fuss. We just have to be brave enough. Brave enough to just do it. Ernest Holmes says this: there is a place on the side of the mountain where we are all there is a place on the side of the mountain we are all ascending, where, having gone beyond the peaks that obstructed the light for us, our ascent reaches an apex where no longer any shadows are cast. This is the light that is spoken of, that lights everyone's path. And as you believe that, you live, believe that you are that light. So while our lives may be frozen light, the physicality of our lives may be frozen light, we're also the place where the light is shining. Our very lives are the fuel for that light. And when we are present and paying attention, we bring that light. We don't even have to worry about being the light, because we are bringing it in the moment. So we're going to close. I'm going to close with this last bit from Jacob Lieberman's book, Luminous Life. When the sun rises, flowers turn and grow toward it, absorbing its rays. As the sun sets, flowers gradually retreat and rest, preparing themselves for the next day, the next level of their evolvement. Humans respond the same way. We awaken to the light of day, continually align ourselves with the light, and finally retreat and rest, preparing ourselves for the next steps of our life's journey. Creation is the transformation of light into matter, and enlightenment is the return of matter back to the light. Our physical life's journey begins with the manifestation of spirit and ends with the spiritualization of matter. Our consciousness determines what frequencies of the light spectrum we are able to absorb. These frequencies spiritualize matter into energy, causing us to glow. As consciousness expands, so does our glow. The frequencies of light that we are not yet able to absorb are reflected, attracting back to us matching life experiences that gradually help us embrace what previously disturbed us. And when we are able to absorb the entire spectrum of light, we disappear. And what remains is a holographic focal point of the sun. And so it is.